After my dad passed away, it felt like the worst pain I had ever experienced. It was deeper than anything I could explain. Before my dad passed, our male German shepherd, the father of our pups, had been taken away by the police. It was all over a misunderstanding.
The police are here. There they are. Oh no, so far away. Let me see. Yeah, there they are. Having a meeting with my wife. They're not coming in because my wife didn't want to upset Annabella. Maybe filling in some forms or something.
One morning, as the taxi was pulling up to take the children to school, our dog barked at a cyclist as the gates were opening. The cyclist rode past and got scratched. Not bitten, just scratched. The taxi driver saw everything and confirmed it wasn't a bite, but a scratch as the dog barked and jumped at the gate. Still, a month later, the police showed up with a photo showing scratches, claiming they were bites. They told us we could fight it in court, but if we lost, our dog would be destroyed. Or we could surrender him voluntarily and they would find something to do with him. We never really knew what happened. Deep down, I feared the worst. Maybe they lied, maybe not, but it haunted me. It was a terrible time. Then came my dad's passing. It felt like the world collapsed. The house felt cold and empty. There were 2 less boys in the house now, only me and my son. 4 days after losing my dad, I went outside into the gardens near the haystack. I hugged a tree. I remembered being a child, running down the hallway as soon as I knew my dad was home, straight into his arms. Now there was no one to run to, no arms to catch me, no strength to borrow. I was overwhelmed. The thought of giving up crossed my mind more than once. It scared me how strong the feeling was. I didn't know how I got through those days. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was my will to live. Maybe it was something else. My wife was not one for affection. And even though family and friends came to the funeral, the hugs and condolences soon faded, and I was alone with my grief. It felt like the first day of my life where I had no strength to lean on, no father to protect me. I was at rock bottom. No, I was below rock bottom, in the basement of life. Amidst all this, Betty, our German shepherd, started to get bigger. At first, we didn't realize what was happening, but soon it became obvious. She was pregnant. We made a little birthing box out of an old bookcase lined with nappies at the bottom. And then, on or around my birthday, she gave birth. 10 tiny black pups, a beautiful, chaotic mess of new life. It felt like a strange gift, a little sign that life carries on. But life isn't without pain. One pup died within a day. Another was accidentally suffocated by Betty when she lay on it. We buried the second pup in the garden, in the place where Betty used to play. As Annabelle and I were burying the little one, Betty somehow escaped and found us. She realized one was missing. She came over to me and I hugged her tightly. She looked at the small grave, then back at me. There was a sadness in her eyes, a knowing.
We pray you go to doggy heaven. Oh my God, she's here. What are you doing? What are you doing? No, no. No, Betty. No, how did she get out? Betty, you can't. Oh my God. No, no, Betty. No, Betty. No, Betty. Let me take her back. Let me take her. Come here. No, no. How did she get out?
No.
Becky,
That's what I said.
Becky. All right. Who would take the baby back? She's clever. She knows we're going to bury her baby. Promise.
From that moment, something inside me changed. I couldn't give up. I couldn't leave them behind. Betty needed me. The pups needed me. Even though I was broken, I had something to hold on to. As the months passed, the pups grew. They caused trouble. They made messes. They ran wild. Every time someone said, "Why do you have so many dogs? It's not responsible." They didn't understand. It wasn't about being responsible. It was about survival. Every time I thought of giving them away, I would look at one of them, maybe little Sally, and tears would fill my eyes. I couldn't do it. Maybe one day I'll go live in the wilderness with them, far away from all the noise and the judgment. For now, they're my pack, my lifeline, my little army that saved my heart when it was broken into 1,000 pieces. The months passed and the puppies grew fast. Their eyes opened fully to the world, and they started running, playing, biting each other's ears. The house that once felt heavy with sadness now echoed with little paws and silly growls. There was no time to sit in sorrow, no time to get lost inside my own mind. Every morning was the same. Tiny yelps waking me up before the sun even rose, hungry, cold, needing me. It wasn't easy. Some days I felt drained to the bone, but at the same time, I could feel something stirring in me, something waking up that had been asleep for a long time. There were quiet moments when I'd sit by the window with a cup of tea in hand, watching them sleep in a messy pile, their tiny chests rising and falling, their little noses twitching in dreams, and I'd realise I wasn't thinking about pain or loss or the unfairness of it all. I was simply there, in that moment, alive. Betty stayed close to them and close to me. We became a little team, surviving grief together in our own way. The garden that once felt cold and abandoned slowly became lively again. Puppies chasing each other through the grass. Betty lying in the sun, watching them with tired but proud eyes. Some evenings I'd sit out there as the sky turned orange, feeling the air cool on my face, and I'd remember that not all endings are final. Sometimes life just changes shape. The sadness was still there. It never really leaves, but now it had to share space with something else, with new beginnings, new responsibilities, new love. Looking back now, I realized those tiny creatures didn't just need saving. They saved me without ever speaking a word, without ever asking for anything other than love and care. They brought me back to life, one day at a time. And for that, I'll always be grateful. As the weeks passed, I became more accustomed to the rhythm of my new life. Betty's pups were no longer tiny creatures. They were little beings with personalities, each one as unique as the day they were born. Some were bold, charging headfirst into every new challenge, while others were more reserved, watching the world carefully before they decided to leap in. But all of them, without fail, found their way to me at some point during the day. At first, I felt overwhelmed by the constant need for attention, for care, for love. But somewhere along the way, I started to realize it wasn't just them that needed me. I needed them just as much. They pulled me out of bed on the worst days, reminded me that I had something to give, something worth fighting for. Each night, after I fed them and settled them down, I would sit on the couch, exhausted, but strangely peaceful. Betty would curl up beside me, her body warm, her head resting against my leg. The pups would fall asleep in various places around the house, tiny snores filling the silence. It was in those moments that I felt a small flicker of hope. Hope that, despite everything I'd lost, maybe there was something left worth holding on to. I spent hours walking around the garden, watching the pups play, trying to find some peace in the simple act of being outside. I could feel the sun on my back, the earth beneath my feet. And in that stillness, I'd think about how different things used to be, about how it used to be just me and my dad walking in the woods together. And I realized it wasn't just the dogs that were keeping me going. It was also the memory of those walks, of that bond. Betty, too, seemed to sense my mood shifts. There were days when she would nudge me or sit next to me, offering me her silent companionship. I could almost hear her saying, "I'm here. It's going to be okay." And somehow, for a brief moment, it was. But the heaviness of grief would return like a wave crashing over me, pulling me under when I least expected it. There were nights I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with memories, with questions, with pain. But even then, I'd hear the soft shuffle of paws, the sound of a little snout nudging my hand, and I would remember that I wasn't truly alone. I watched as the pups grew, each day bringing new changes, new steps, new sounds, new joys. One of the little ones, who had once been so fragile, now leapt across the garden with the greatest of ease, as if they had always known what it meant to run. I'd watch them, and for a moment, I'd forget the weight I carried. But grief doesn't just vanish. It lingers, tucked quietly beneath the surface, only to resurface when I least expect it. I remember one night, after everything had settled down, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at Betty and the pups. The room was silent, except for the soft sound of their breathing. I began to cry, not the kind of tears that came from anger or frustration, but from something deeper. I wept for the man I had been and the man I was still trying to become. I wept for the love I had lost and the love that had been given to me in return. Betty came over, as she always did, and laid her head on my lap. I didn't have to say anything. She knew. And in that moment, I realized something. I had been focusing so much on the empty spaces, on the things I didn't have, that I hadn't noticed all the new things in my life, all the love, the support, the hope, the tiny joys. I took a deep breath and wiped my eyes. There was still so much ahead of me, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had the strength to face it. Days turned into weeks, and the pups continued to grow stronger. They were starting to explore more and more, getting into mischief, testing their boundaries, learning from their mistakes. I couldn't help but laugh at their antics. Some days they'd chase each other around the garden, tumbling over each other in a frenzy until they were out of breath, lying down in the grass, exhausted but happy. It was then, watching them, that I realized something about life. It isn't about waiting for things to be perfect. It's about being able to move forward, even when everything isn't okay. It's about finding small moments of joy, even when the world feels like it's falling apart. And that's what the pups taught me. They taught me to keep going, to love without limits, to forgive both others and myself. Now, as they all grow older, it's impossible to imagine life without them. They are my little reminders that even after the darkest storms, the sun will rise again. And if you're ever feeling lost, like I was, just remember, sometimes the most unlikely things can save you. Sometimes love comes in the form of tiny paws and warm fur, just when you need it most.